maybe are we already in?
We can be.
Yeah, I think he's a good enough actor that it was a Trump caricature. I think he did all right at making it not too cartoonish, even though it wasn't hard to tell what they were going for. Clearly, they did not think that he was going to win the election when they made the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's he going to do next after 2 failed elections was kind of the idea of this character.
Mm-hmm.
His fans early on wearing red hats it wasn't subtle.
Wow. Subtle.
It was,
yeah. That's something that this movie has no idea how to do.
But I thought like he did a good enough job of, you get a little bit of the cadence that he's trying to do a caricature like that, but it wasn't an impression, and it could have been a more, generic kind of definitely conservative politician, but kind of not even, more so just the businessman / politician thing. It could have been more generic. They made it on the nose with the fans being recorded with the red hats.
Yeah. And the TV personality aspect to the character,
Them as a couple just I felt
gross.
more was disgusting, but was less of a caricature of Trump and more of like classic big businessman type thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously Toni Collette is not a caricature of Trump's wife. Melania, that's her name. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you got
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. I do think his accent that he was putting on to be that, like you said, it was quite caricature, but not too much, but it was very JFK.
Yeah.
More than it was Trump, So it was kind of like this weird caricature of a politician that I wasn't like necessarily 100% sure who you were talking about.
It's almost better. Like
I guess,
it's
but it's
kind of, because there's a universality to it. There's a you can point out the commonalities between kind of general power and politics and politician, which I guess is, has truth to it. You shouldn't, it's an obvious Trump thing with the red hats, like I said, but I don't think any, a Korean filmmaker is sitting there like really going, well, the Democrats are great.
That's true.
Like they are,
that's fair.
He probably has a better idea that like, there's less difference between some of these groups than is normally thought.
Sure.
Domestically.
Sure. Yeah.
And he goes, he's one of those politicians. Also, if it was supposed to only straight be anti-Trump, there's Kennedys in his administration, so I guess it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't need to go too far to make connections between different powerful families in the country.
It's kind of weird how that works, right?
Yeah.
So we are talking about Mickey 17.
Oh, good thing somebody said the title.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Here's the thing. This movie is. This is going to be a fun episode because we barely remember this movie as it is.
And we just saw it.
And we just saw it. And I even read this.
In fairness, how long has it been?
It's been like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So which isn't just.
But you did read the book.
I did read the book.
It's really more like you're weird for not remembering more so than me.
Yeah, I guess.
I would just like to point out to the audience.
Yeah, yeah. So
both of you remember that, audience.
All 2 of you. Especially you, J-Dog.
Yes. Thank you to the commenter.
Yeah. Single. Love that guy.
I love the freedom of not many people listening. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's almost like a clubhouse type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. They're part of the conversation, except they're not.
Yeah.
Except
we don't have to listen.
Which let's be entirely honest. That's pretty much anytime you and I have a conversation, we don't really pay attention to anything else that's going on around us.
I was going to make the comment that there are probably, before you showed me metrics that proved slightly otherwise, I was going to say we probably have exactly 2 fans, and one of them's my father and the other one you're married to. And as soon as I thought of that, I was like, Jamie doesn't listen to this.
She doesn't listen to this. No, she doesn't listen to this at all.
I've heard them talk. I get the idea. I don't need
I've been there before. I don't need inject it straight into my head.
I don't need a recording of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never recorded it before. Never felt the need to. Years of listening to these guys ramble about nothing.
Yeah, about 90s TV shows and stuff.
Oh,
But
cool.
today,
What movie did you see recently? I want to hear these two talk about it. God damn it. Chris invited Kurt over again.
I mean, there. I like to give warnings when friends come over. Just to shoot her a text throughout the day. It's just like, hey, just to let you know, so and so is coming over, or so and so is coming over, and I could do that like day up, right? I need a little bit of runway.
Yeah.
She needs a day or two to like think about, okay, how am I going to spend that night?
Yeah, you're just like, hey, I think Kurt's going to come over and record a podcast on Tuesday. And she goes, oh, I was going to work out after work.
I was going to not be there. Which is hilarious as we actually get started and she walked in.
Oh. Yeah, these headphones really make it hard to know who's sneaking up on you.
Good. It was by design. So Mickey 17.
Yeah.
Is
Remind me how it starts.
So it starts with opening up on Mickey, Jesus, inside of a crevasse. He just fell down, and he's kind of like looking for help on his communicator, and his buddy, who is the copter pilot, lands near him and tells him, "I there's no way in hell I can get you out of there, but I can get this far into it, so I'm going to take this flamethrower you left here." And
I'm not gonna lie, it didn't sound like no way in hell. It just sounded more like, I don't feel like going through the effort.
It's certainly, I don't really care. I don't really want to. And that's where the movie starts, and then we get a whole bunch of exposition of what Mickey is and stuff. Which I think could have been done a lot better, but this is where we start getting that weird flashback. It's like the next hour of this movie is kind of flashbacks to, signing up for this expedition, going, the 4 years of traveling to Niflheim, and then, getting killed over and over again. And then it's like an hour and a half later, and then we're finally back to this scene.
To the present.
Yeah.
As it was first presented. Yeah, it is quite the story. I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit before recording, or the last time we discussed the movie in this 2-week span, but it just felt very much like these were scenes that should have really built an emotional core around this movie. And I mean, watching somebody die over and over again in and of itself could really kind of put you in the mood of just how worthless this life is to the company, which I think is the point that they're going for here, of the not caring about humanity, about the we already talked about the owners and stuff, and they don't care about individuals. They've gotten out here in order to get away from the laws that would prevent them from treating somebody like this. And then every death was kind of had a little bit of a joke to it. And I'm just sitting there thinking, in the end of this, based on the like 2-sentence overview of the movie that I had actually read before going in. That was all I read. I didn't read a book. as you did. I read 2 sentences on Wikipedia. The overall idea of some sort of downtrodden, being taken advantage of, little person fighting, becoming the David fighting Goliath, and the human rights and the probably workers' rights of this situation. And if I am supposed to get that by the end, I think maybe I should be horrified by the fact that he keeps dying. And instead, I am asked to giggle at each time that he dies. And something we also kind of discussed off recording, but Robert Pattinson is not an actor that I know a lot of his work. As the elder podcaster on the show here.
You're not... I could have swore the last time I was over at your place, I saw a Robert Pattinson poster from Twilight, even, in your room.
I don't have to see any of his movies to want his face on my wall.
That's just there.
I didn't even know he was an actor.
I just beautiful man.
I thought Twilight meant near the end of the day, and we were just...
I thought it was...
I wanted his face there. I think I saw part of one of those movies once, and they're, terrible, and he just wasn't asked to do much. I assumed that might have partially been his fault, but maybe it wasn't. And then, the Batman, which he was a stoic face with very few words, being very few lines. I thought he did fantastic in this, as much as could be done with the material done with it. So I was kind of but why did I bring him up to begin with? But because it's got a comedic feel to each one of these deaths where I'm just like, I need to feel for this guy, and yet it's written in a way that he is giving me fear in like the eyes and the way that he's dying, and then something has to happen in each death that makes you go ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, like him not being all the way dead before he's thrown into the corpse hole. And there's like, oh no, he's still alive, and he's like, it's fine, throw me in, you know.
And I feel like this actor is giving me everything he should to make me feel mortified that he's dying over and over again. But the score and the editing and just something is thrown in each time that makes it goofy, to where by the end, I mean, this may be too early to say this, but I feel like by the end I'm going to be more generous to this movie than you are.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Really? Your very first wording of it, I think there's something fundamentally wrong with it, which is that, but in almost every circumstance, I can get what they're going towards, and it may just be the old man in me that doesn't. I feel like we might have discussed this on Section 31, the amount of little quips take you out of the emotion of a movie, and I don't need to laugh at his deaths. I need to be sad at his deaths in order for later the triumph to hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm laughing at all of these, and then later there is the revelation to an almost revolution to he's fighting for his rights, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to die comically, rather than a person doesn't want to die, which I think would have more of a resonance.
I guess it changes the perspective of like, I don't want to die needlessly over and over and over again. But every time he does die, there is a good reason for him to die. Like, like he's dies over and over again when they first get to Niflheim, because there's some sort of virus or bacteria inside out in the air, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they just keep exposing him to it, and then him dying to it, and then they make a change, and then they expose him again, and they try to figure out a vaccine that way. And I mean, you did sign up for this, like the movie doesn't necessarily give the scenes as much gravitas as the book does, of when Mickey signs up to be an expendable, and everybody's kind of like, you read this, right? You know what this means? And he's like, yeah, it'll be fine. And the woman comes out and he takes him into the back room, and then like shows him like, this is where you're going to come out every time you wake up, and all your memories are going to be in this fucking brick, and which was an actual brick. And like I think the movie doesn't necessarily give it as much justice, but it's a big chunk of the book of like, he understands what he's about to go do.
They weren't. That disease you could see is useful in the way that, like,
a lab rat is.
Yeah.
Which is part of his job.
Yeah. But I think some of them were almost specifically not as useful. What was the radiation he was going to be exposed to on the outside of the ship when they killed him that way?
That's a good point. Yeah.
It seemed like, you just don't have people repair things on the outside of the ship when you're in certain places. Like, this is just kind of killing a guy for fun.
Yeah, we're just...
that kind of radiation kills somebody. You didn't
never
need to test it.
We've never seen it, though. I mean, I kind of want to see it. You want to see it? I want to see it. Yeah, we want to see it happen to a person. So there's a lot of changes that they made from the book to the movie, like the scene with the lady at the recruitment center, but Mickey's first death is it's not treated quite that like, yeah, sorry man, we didn't really want to tell you, but you're just kind of stuck out there. It's more like Mickey knew that he was going to go sacrifice his life for something. It was a bigger, like, it was like he's going to save the ship, kind of, at this moment, opposed to him just fucking screwing a bolt in the movie and then taking his glove off and getting his hand cut off, In the book, it's a little bit more, like, there's almost more of that emotion that you're trying to find in this movie. It's almost there in the book. It's not.
I think you just made me like the movie more for one specific reason. Which is that I have already admitted I don't remember the movie. And I'm hoping you're going to fill me in on exactly what it was, because you seem to remember some things.
I guess.
I think it makes a lot more sense for a person signing up to be killed over and over again, not because they're whatever you would call patriotic, but only for the company, not for the whatever we would consider real patriotism.
Sure. The company.
I mean, that's kind of what you're describing, as opposed to he was running in fear, in desperation, and needed to sign up for something.
Yeah.
Which seems to me to make a lot more sense as to why you would sign up for something. Yeah. And if you're trying to make this point at the end of the movie about the, about just the kind of corporate not giving a shit about the people that they're destroying, I think it makes a lot more sense that the person that they're able to get to sign a contract that says that they're allowed to fuck with them is in a desperate situation. It just rings more true to me than... And you can get people to sign up to do crazy stuff and convince them that it's good for themselves or it's somehow righteous.
Yeah.
But it seems far more common for somebody to sign up for that out of desperation.
Sure.
And if that wasn't in the book, I feel like I thought that was a pretty key part, that if I wasn't told to... I didn't laugh a lot when he died, but if I wasn't told I was supposed to, I think that would make more sense. A desperate person being put into a situation and then dying, and then each one of those scenes, I go, holy shit, this guy shouldn't have died there. One brings the emotional resonance, but I really think that that's a lot more, that feels much more true to me than than wanting to for the good of the ship.
That was pretty much the only time that he dies that way, in terms of the good of the ship.
Is that disease right at the end when they're already there?
No, there was something. They were on their way to Niflheim. He was being trained because he has no experience. He's not an engineer. He doesn't know anything. So they were training him, and so I believe something in the engines goes wrong, and the only way to fix it, other than adding like 5 years to their, like if they stopped the engines fully, they were going to add 5 years to their trip or something like that. And instead of doing that, if somebody crawls in there and fixes it, they're going to die, but we can still get to Niflheim and on our timetable that we're looking at. So it's, he does it, or whatever it is. The rest of his deaths are, a lot of them get eaten up by the disease on Niflheim. And Mickey, the book is called Mickey 7, not Mickey 17. So there's 10 deaths in the movie that aren't in the book. And it doesn't really, the movie seems to just kill him for fun.
Did the movie show 16, or was it like a time lapse after like 6?
Well, I feel like there's...
And assume there's more type thing.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if we actually see all of his deaths.
We should have seen this movie twice.
I guess. No, I don't have to pay money to see this again. But there is a time that I was talking to you about when we, in the parking lot when we saw the movie, about he's out with that party of other people, and they're looking to go grab a creeper, and the one chick dies. And then, the bi chick is all broken up about it and tries to get close to Mickey to process her emotions.
Yeah.
During that expedition, I think it's the same amount of people, but instead of one person dying, it's 3 people die. And instead of like Mickey kind of not really knowing what to do, he straight up runs away instead of trying to figure out what to do. And this is all being recorded because everyone's got stupid cameras on them or whatever, right? And the politician in the book, he's not really a politician. He's more of a military commander.
Oh, wow.
And he calls Mickey in to his office and screams at him about how, like, I have 3 dead non-expendables and 1 live expendable. You see the problem here? Like, 3 people who were specialists in weapons and in security and stuff like that are dead, and you're a specialist in dying, and you didn't die. Like, and the whole point of the speech is like, when a grenade is in front of you, your job is to jump on the fucking grenade, and he's like, well, I didn't really, they made their choices. I tried and I failed. So, what was my point here? Was that, this was a big difference in the movie and the book. And I think I like it better in the book because it's almost trying to say something. Try to get to like a deeper point. Because like there's like no sci-fi-ish ideas here. There's no mind-bending, there's no mind-expanding ideas here in this movie at all. And this was almost there. If your whole job that you signed up for is to jump on that grenade, then like that's a complete caricature. Jesus fucking Christ. Character.
I'm glad we don't edit.
It's a deep character trait that you need to cultivate, And then I had a whole bunch of issues of like, if that's the case, then like, you have the ability to take my memories and put them back into a body. You can't add things to that. Like, you can't add weapons training. You can't add engineering into this. And then you can't add a sense of responsibility or, I guess, patriotism for the ship to jump on that grenade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit, but I also that
Or is that just rambling off into the distance here?
no, not at all. Other than I think it kind of to the extent that they're trying to say anything, although I didn't read the book. It's the evil of deciding who is and isn't expendable. And so it's this whole like well, of course it makes sense because of greater good, like is a very Mengele like sentiment.
Sure.
Traditionally considered quite evil.
Mm-hmm.
And that and so like he should run. It's human nature. There's never the fact that he will relive is kind of I guess you could say it's the excuse for all the people that in this movie are evil and that there is something wrong about. But one, it's still human nature to avoid death, even if the science has changed it. Even if there's a technological way to change that, it is human nature. But two, and I think one of the keys to it is that it's simply not true. He's not being reborn. He's not an immortal in that they're different personalities. It doesn't get pointed out in the movie till about halfway, and then he starts talking about, I heard this one was kind of like this, and I heard that one was kind of like that, and I heard this one. And then 18 is kind of a prick. And whatever. And
which is something that has been changed from the books. Like, you don't get a sense of that because they're both whiny. Like 7 and 8 are both super whiny. 8 doesn't want to do anything since he just got out of the printer and he's tired and he's hungry and stuff like that. So he doesn't want to go on any missions. And 7 hasn't had a full meal in like days because he gets his rations depleted because he did something, right? Like cut in half. And then now he's sharing that half with 8. So he's like not eating at all. So, and he's like almost died like 3 times throughout the book because they go the mission where they go try to get a creeper and the iceberg falls on the chick, and in the book it's creepers come out of the ground and kill 3 people. This is like the 3rd mission that he's been outside in the book. Like he's being sent out over and over again to go get a creeper so they can study it, which is why he dies in the first place. In the book, the movie shows him outside. That's true. The movie does show him outside for a while, just kind of like, I'm looking for one. I can't find one, and that's when he falls into the
crevasse.
Yeah, the crevasse. But the book doesn't do any, like, maybe a little bit of like, well, it's kind of rude, but the sense that I got when I was reading it was more like, yeah, if you met yourself, you wouldn't like him either.
Oh yeah, I almost think that's an obvious. I was already going to, in honor of our tradition here at Unbearable, I was already going to bring up some Star Trek, but since you just talked about meeting yourself will always be, you wouldn't like him.
Yeah.
It is the Riker meeting Riker.
Yeah, you wouldn't like...
Yeah, Thomas.
Yeah.
That, of course, like, I mean, it almost seems painfully obvious if you stop to think about it for too long. And fuck, this other Star Trek parallel just made me forget the one that I was going to bring up. Maybe I shouldn't drink for these shows.
No, it's great.
I was thinking about taking little breaks where we talk about the alcohol. That's why I should have. That's why we should have waited on the chai.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like this format of just kind of. Yeah, that was weird. Don't fucking touch me with your fucking feet. I don't know where they've been. Also, my wife's in the other room, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
At least have some dignity.
She's very jealose.
She might be.
She's a very jealous woman.
Yeah.
Are you guys playing footsie in there?
She
walked by the we'll call it a door at the exact right time.
Yeah. I have no shame. They're beads. Yeah. It doesn't have a door. What do you want me to do?
Doesn't need one. How about no beads?
Well, there needs to be a division between this room and that room.
Oh, I forgot you were a 14-year-old pothead.
My action figures on the wall didn't say that to you?
Yeah, the incense burning is really giving
Yeah.
it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All of incense. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Oh, that's why I was going to bring up Star Trek. A very classic Star Trek theme. And it's not even, I think that's why I forgot about it. It's not an episode. There's 50 episodes about this if you go through all the different series. Which is that whole... First of all, elongated life being a problem. The re-putting a mind into the next, that it never actually works, that it's kind of not possible, that the mere fact that this is something that they never get to in Star Trek, and to be honest, most sci-fis that talk about this never do, and I feel like my problem with the general sci-fi trope of transferring one's consciousness into a computer program, into a robot, into a whatever, is that always in the movie, always in the TV show, the thing that happens that makes you feel like the premise is possible is that the person has a ticking clock, and that clock is the fact that they're dying. And as they're dying, they're both coming to the same pinnacle at the same time. Their research is coming to a pinnacle where they really feel like they're going to be able to transfer into a robot, into a computer program, and their sickness, their disease, their cancer, their whatever is coming to an endpoint where they are going to die. And what do you know? Movie after movie, TV show after TV show, it is perfect timing. They started up the program. They were going to transfer it before they died. Then their lungs stop, then their heart stopped, then their brain has some electrical activity and it stops just as the program's kind of kicking on, but did it kick on yet? And maybe it kicks on in that instant, or maybe somebody realized that the computer program started working the next day or whatever. And the problem with all of this is that if the actual program worked, if the actual science worked, if the actual technology worked, it could have worked one day earlier, and it would disprove the entire point of the episode, the entire point of the movie, which is that you would be there with two of them, and you'd realize he didn't expand his life. He created a brand new life. And I've always hated that trope in sci-fi for that reason. I'm not even remembering the name of it, but one of the worst examples I think I ever saw was... who's the guy that played Jack Sparrow in the Caribbean movies? The biggest actors, I don't know their names. The character actors, I'll pull up left and right.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp was in a movie where this happens and it becomes a computer program, and it's one of the worst examples of it. It's just there's a lot of other bad things with that movie. But that was the worst part of it, was this perfect timing of him dying the second the program comes on, so that you get some sort of metaphysical idea of the soul going into a computer program or in anything like that. But if the technology worked, again, if he could have developed it one day earlier, it would disprove itself instantly. And it might be one of the few things I like about this movie, which is an attack on that trope, which is that it's not extend life. It's creating new things. They've created 17 different people, 18 by the end of this movie. They're not the same consciousness. There isn't a soul being transferred between each one. And therefore, they are just killing lots of different people in using a very, insane excuse for their own morality so they can sleep at night, which is this greater good Mengele excuse.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where I have I don't disagree with you, but I don't think like the book tries to make the what's it called? It brings up the ship of Theseus a lot. And trying to, because I mean, like by a lot, I mean it beats you over the head with this idea, you know, but it doesn't really like do anything weird or anything fun with it other than this, like, think about ship of Theseus and then remember that this guy dies over and over again, you know, and like how much of him is left, you know, which I guess is fine if you're not really paying attention when you're reading a book, but
like maybe bits of them are being chipped away.
Yeah, well, like what you're saying is that like it's the next version, the next thing that you build is like rebuilding the ship of Theseus in the museum. Is that really the ship?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, or is it just another ship that we're just calling the same? We're just calling it Theseus.
Yeah. How many parts can you replace before it's not? It's just a replica and not actually the original.
Right. And I don't. You're right. There are tons and tons of examples in movies and TV shows and even in books of this trope of like just at the right moment, the two things come together and
I died the second I was transferred into Data.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But there's also a bunch of examples in like more modern sci-fi of it just working. But like that's not the interesting part of the story, you know? And this book and the movie at first doesn't it seems like it's figured out a loophole in getting around you're just creating another consciousness by the fact that like you can't have two of them at once and the technology just works, you know.
I feel like you only get around it if you can't have two of them at once, as in it's a physical impossibility to have two at once for some reason or another. Make up a sci-fi word, and is kind of the soul.
Stay closer to the mic, you loser.
I'm really getting relaxed now.
I know you're really leaning into it.
This is a very comfortable chair you put me in.
It's not.
No, it's a few beers in, it feels better and better. I was going to complain. I was going to be like, you couldn't just have two of the same chair? Like, I don't know how you got master and...
Yeah. Yeah. No, I did pick these chairs out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose this one. I chose that one.
I noticed yours is 6 inches higher, too. I thought that was a little weird.
Well, I mean, you can adjust that one as much as you like. You know, but I think we're getting a little off track, Larry. We're talking about the chairs again. I think we should go back to your day.
Again? My day. Oh, I got a lot. Let me tell you about today. Let me remind you of the company you worked for years ago.
I was yes-anding your Larry David joke here. And
what was my Larry David joke?
Larry David sitting in the therapist's office.
Oh, I know.
So you were just
forgot. Yeah.
You were just doing Larry David at me.
Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm is just in the background of my general life.
You just didn't even realize you were quoting. Jesus Christ.
I knew it came from something. I just couldn't really, yeah.
So for a second there, you thought, I'm really funny making up this thing about how the two chairs here are different. Obviously, I have the better chair because this is my fucking show. I do all the work, and you're over here in that chair because all you do is come over and drink and rant into a microphone.
Well, I didn't know as I was specifically quoting. Also, ironically, that comes up a lot in that show because you're talking about the therapist, but I immediately thought of you know, I said I can think of the character actors and not the who wrote Hamilton.
He's got a weird name. It's hard to remember.
There's three of them.
Yeah,
you gotta know all three names.
Yeah,
I can't come up with people with three names.
I have a hard time with one.
Middle name Lin-Manuel Miranda, but you know what? Hyphenated names, those are rough, man.
It's rough. It's almost as rough as having like an explanation point in your name, which is Click. You know, that would be a pretty hard name to remember.
Is that a name?
Having an explanation point in a name, that means a click. Like,
oh,
yeah. Wow.
Can I say exclamation point instead of explanation point?
Is that what I said? Oh man, maybe we shouldn't drink when we record these. I just get more and more retarded.
Yeah, I totally. It might be an upside down one.
Maybe.
I've only seen it a few times. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm suddenly remembering a history to 1500 class from college that I remember very little about, other than the professor was a colonel in the Air Force that had last been called up to, possibly escort the president on 9/11, but he actually doesn't know, because they did call up got some higher ranked people, some semi-retired people, some people they considered more trustworthy, and even the people that were in the Air Force flying fighter jets to escort planes that all looked like Air Force One. They were that style of jet. And I think there's even several Air Force Ones. You just only call it Air Force One when the president gets on it.
Yeah. For confusion.
Yeah, they scrambled a bunch of jets. They got a bunch of Air Force people in the air. He escorted one of them. He doesn't know to this day, which was at the time 6 years after. He had no idea whether he actually escorted the president or whether he escorted a decoy.
Oh.
And that's most of what I remember about that class.
Well, that's good. That's good knowledge.
But I do remember some part of it was African history a little bit. It was history to it wasn't. It was Western history of 1500, and it was probably seen from the. It was Africa after Europeans went there, is when it came into our class. So.
Sure.
There were two classes of history to 1500. It was history to 1500, which had no other descriptor, and Eastern history to 1500, which leaves major gaps in the parts of the world, because the one without a descriptor meant European.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've done something about it since then.
Well, that kind of segues into one of my points I was trying to make with, I know it's odd that I was trying to make a point, but if the technology does just kind of work in Mickey 17, it's like, from Mickey's point of view, he doesn't really know how different he is from the last Mickey, at least in the movie. Because like I said in the book, this is less of a big deal, even though it tries to hit you over the head with it. Mickey 8 and 7 personality wise are not different. 18 is a psychopath, and 8 is just another Mickey. And nobody ever really comments on like, oh man, like, yeah, 6 was a fucking annoying little twat, but you're not, or anything like that.
Yeah.
The movie does, it's like, well, she told me that 6 was this way and 5 was this way, and so at least from the source material, it does look like the technology just kind of works, especially from Mickey's point of view. To him, 2 minutes ago he was over there, and then he died, and now he's getting reprinted. If his memories are transferred immediately. If they're not, it's just kind of like, well, I lost a day. I know I died, but I don't know how, and I don't remember it because I wasn't uploading the moment I was dying. So, to the point is like, does it really even matter then? Like, this whole point of like, well, he is a different person. It is a different consciousness. But if it just kind of works, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it never does. I think that is my problem with that trope. I'm suddenly remembering a different trope, which is less in usually sci-fi and more in action sci-fi, which is typically what you would think of as not having as much depth, and it is
Sure.
all about the
Spectacle.
yeah,
Yeah.
the technology is relevant because you can do cool lasers and you can do cool, but there's often the clones that didn't know that the other clone was out there. And the technology works perfectly.
Sure.
And there's still two of them. And they don't like each other.
Yeah, but you wouldn't
Not
like,
even because they're the same, but because not even because of personality clashes of how you would interact with yourself, but just because you're losing individuality. I think when this technology works the best, it still doesn't make any sense because you could still do it one day earlier and have two of them. And as far as the transfer, it would, in order for it to really work, and even in your description where sometimes you lose a day, I think that in and of itself is proof that it's not a perfect working. And as much as I'm not religious and I would actually hate for too much metaphysical stuff to be in my sci-fi, it's almost like everything else, it working quote unquote perfectly, seems like a metaphysical idea, that it is like a soul transfer. And that is what would make it okay. And since I'm already not concerned about souls, and I don't think that has to negate me being concerned about individuals, recreating a person is creating a second individual, and killing the first one is killing an individual. Even if their personalities were identical, because they instantly have different experiences.
but like, so what? Like, I
I think that's also what Mengele said.
huh?
I think that's also what Mengele said.
Well,
I think that's why I keep going back to it. I think that's the argument that's being made. Kill somebody for the greater good.
well, I don't even mean for the greater good. I just
Kill
mean that,
somebody for fun.
well, yeah, obviously. I mean,
Why would you need greater good to kill
what
somebody?
are you talking about? You could just kill them. It doesn't need to be any purpose to it. You could just, I don't know. I mean, like, I would be that.
There's billions of us. A few can die.
Yeah, whatever, you know. Like, I would be the gangster in Mickey 17 that likes to watch his debtors get like chopped up into bits and pieces and records it. That's me. I want to be that. I want to be
Yeah.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know, who cares? Just kill him.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why you're losing. Why why the owner of this company is a bad guy. I'm lost on how you're losing that. Yeah, don't give a shit about people and kill them.
oh, that's even different than what I'm trying to say too, because like the movie and the book tried to do
I
this.
assumed so.
Huh?
I assumed so.
Yeah. They're trying to make this point of like, individuality and there's this revolution that could happen, when there's whatever. But like, also you did sign up to do this job for the greater good. So not being printed anymore and like destroying the printer and stuff is like really selfish of you. Like, so much so that I don't think Spock would approve of it. If that's your role that you took on the responsibility of being the guy that jumps on the grenade, and you're not doing it. Sure, it's human nature to not jump on it, but there are characters in Star Trek, the heroes that always put themselves in front of the into the brink, and that's their job, is to to jump on that grenade. So when you, especially since he has no skills, he's just taking away from the colony for existing now.
I find it hard to disagree that Spock would be disappointed in Mickey 17 or 7 for not jumping on a grenade. I also find it hard to believe that Spock wouldn't spend the rest of his career trying to stop this cloning program.
I don't know.
Simultaneously.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, how if is this so much different than like Dr. Sung creating datas? If he created more datas, is it that much different?
Yes. Well, no, it is not in the same sense as in Measure of a Man, when you determine that actually creating a bunch of datas and considering them expendable would actually be evil, even if they were just robots just being made in mass. But because they have a consciousness, it is still evil to kill them. And that you're actually creating a slave race by calling them expendable. Classic episode where, you know, Lawyer Picard really crushes it.
Yeah.
Counselor Picard.
It's a good point. That's a good point. That's all I got. You swayed me.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah,
I was really waiting for the next one. I was just like, well, what if he made a bunch of them? They discussed that.
Yeah. It took Star Trek to get me to be on the side of Mickey 17's point.
I mean, you watch Measure of Man again, he'll fucking he makes some arguments in that one. I'm going to pale in comparison. So I am just going to reference the greats. You know, if there is a counselor arguing in front of a court, well, I mean, it's really more of a hearing. It's not an official, you know, we're not. I think there was a lot of that in there, that it's a pre-judiciary something.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, no, that was actually a good argument. Just quote Measure of a Man.
It's a go-to in my life in general.
Are you looking
I try
for
to
the
quote.
Switch?
Yeah, I thought it was there.
These don't have them.
5?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Now that you swayed me on that, I feel like that is a good break point.
You're going to have to stop and think about, no, Kurt can't sway me on something. I'm going to have to convince him back.
Yeah.
There's got to be another Star Trek episode that makes the opposite.
I got to come back with some ammo or something. Holy Christ.
No, I'm too many beers into not piss right now. And we're back.
It was a long smoke break. There's a solid like hour and a half of recording of just rambling. Yeah, I don't know. That might be a good episode of just nonsense.
Well, there's a decent portion of that you just hear us very distanced from the living room and
yeah,
and further.
Yeah, right. You guys would like to hear that, right?
I hear a response.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you want to hear the unheard hour.
Nice.
We just got to make sure we don't say any real names.
We gotta hold something back for Patreon.
Yeah, it's for the Patreon.
Yeah, that's behind the paywall.
Yeah, let us know if you guys are interested in that. We'll have like bonus clips of behind the scenes. You can see Kurt spill beer.
I spill enough beer that one wonders how it could be so drunk, and yet here we are.
Yeah. That's pretty much the motto of any time that you're over here.
Yeah, that's what I go for. I'm glad we record so late, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Well, to get back into it, I've got to say one thing that I'm astonished by. I was pretty sure nobody has ever convinced anybody of anything. And so
you like
absolutely blown away that you changed your mind about anything while somebody was talking to you. Maybe later, maybe over time. I've never heard two people
never
have
seen
a
it.
conversation.
You've never seen it
and one
happen in
person
real
go, "That's
time.
a good point."
I'm on your side. You did it. You convinced me.
All I had to do was, reference one of the great arguments ever made by one of the great characters in the history of television.
Yeah, no small feat.
No, I mean, it was
Honestly, you didn't even really do anything. You just had
it
to
was
say
a small feat for me.
a measure of a man.
Yeah, 3 words, done.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you going to argue with Captain Jean-Luc Picard? I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea.
The judge or advocate or whatever they had there
They should
also
be the
didn't.
judge.
I always there's a lot of court cases there, and a lot of them are like, oh, well, this is just an admiral who's filling in for a something, and
Yeah. I'm watching Voyager. And we just
I'm
had.
sorry.
I'm gonna.
I'm the defender. I shouldn't have even said that.
I'm gonna say something that's. I'm not a Voyager diehard, and I'm not going to go to bat for Voyager. But I'm starting to come around to Voyager.
It's an enjoyable watch. You can have some fun. There's enough good ideas that you can sit there and think about how you would have made the episode.
Yeah.
And there's enough just ridiculous lines and ways they put the episode together.
Yeah.
And just
I wouldn't have written it that way. I wouldn't have written that dialogue. I wouldn't have acted that way.
After 2, 3, 4 seasons, you're just sitting there like, people are still following this captain? Like, a pleasant enough woman, but I'm just like, these are the decisions being made on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and this is the defense she's putting up for it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Janeway.
Yeah. My point about we just had the first Q episode,
Ooh.
which is a really good Q episode, that they find a comet streaming through the galaxy and they beam a life form off of the comet into the bridge, and it's a Q, and he is not good at being a Q, because his powers are limited, because he keeps trying to kill himself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which gets the attention of RQ, and then he goes on trial because he seeks asylum on Voyager, and he lets it be clear, he's very clear in saying, if you grant me asylum, I will kill myself. So Janeway has to judge, does he deserve to spend the rest of his existence on this comet in a small confined room, or does he get to kill himself?
So we get 5 minutes of Gone with the Wind.
Which is a really cool interpretation of the continuum.
I would like to point out, and speaking of, I didn't think anyone ever convinced somebody of something in the moment, but it might happen over time.
Sure.
I was making the argument to you like a decade ago that I was not a big fan of Q in general, as an idea, as a character in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And when I made the argument that you found absolutely ridiculous, and this is the convincing part, I eventually turned around and I very much enjoy the Next Generation Q episodes. But I tried to give you a list of absolutely ridiculous things that happen in episodes that happen with Q. And I just, incidentally, I must have just, watched all the series back to back and kind of confused where I saw Q. And I ended up listing, because Q comes up a few times in Voyager.
I've seen all of the... I tried to watch Voyager
years ago.
Back when I lived on Hessler, and I got to where we are now and stopped, and then just decided to go look for all the Q episodes.
Yeah.
And then stop watching.
Guest star John Delancey. Watch that.
Yeah, watch those. Yeah. Now, Kurt, I'm a millennial. I just Googled what are the Q episodes in Voyager.
That works. That
And then
works.
season, 4, whatever they are.
Saying millennial, we are both millennials. You're just a younger one, and I'm an old one.
You're the one that's like flipping through each episode. This isn't. I didn't see his name in there.
What's really messed up is I have to get all the way through the credits to see the special guest.
Which is after the opening, after the hook.
Watch 10 minutes of each one trying to find them.
That one.
But most of the examples I gave that you go, oh, that's a Voyager one. Oh, that's a Voyager. Like they didn't count.
Yeah.
And then it was totally true that it was a bad one. And that was a specific one I brought up. I was like, what about the one that is a combination? The continuum is a dusty road at one point, and then like the Civil War at another point. You go, that's Voyager. That doesn't count.
Well,
now you're calling it a good Q episode.
Well, first off, that's just that's a Voyager episode. It doesn't count. Is a good argument. That's number one. And number two. That was a decade ago. I've had a decade to reflect on life. I have a life of, a decade more life experience. I can understand metaphors a little bit deeper. They are good metaphors for what we would perceive as being like cosmic horror. If we saw the Q uncut, because they make a point of saying like, yeah, this is the continuum. It's what you would understand it to be.
You want to show a war that's pre-modern medicine to really get the horrors.
Yeah.
You want the idea that if a musket shell hits you, it's going to be an amputation no matter what with like a rusty saw.
Right. And then, as a viewer, you kind of have to do we're talking about omnipotent entities here, right? We're talking about gods. How do they fight wars? If they're hitting a god with something that's like, this kills a god. You know what I mean? Like, what could be so horrible for us to imagine, right? Well, we couldn't, so we need an analogy like this: how horrible the Civil War was.
Yeah, there's never been another bad war.
Yeah, but the Civil War,
World War One. That
sure,
like
that's a pretty bad one. Yeah, that was pretty bad. The first what's the word? Industrialized war.
Yeah. All the gas warfare.
Yeah. There's a huge chunk of science fiction and fantasy that's a metaphor for people coming back from those wars and dealing with themselves, and just the fact that you're now seeing in public more and more people who are deformed through war. Yeah. That's a whole. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about Crash, but that's not the point. It's a book I read last week.
Oh, good. I thought you were talking about the movie.
The Cronenberg movie?
No.
Oh, because I didn't know there was a movie based off this book. And it's a Cronenberg movie from like 97.
Oh, nice.
And apparently it's very hard to find because it's very fucked up. And the book is very fucked up. And I'm on the hunt now.
No, the Crash I was thinking about was like one of those famous for winning a Best Picture Oscar, and within like a year, everybody just like instantly, collectively, as a populace, realizing it's not actually a good movie. Like it's
I think people, to bring it back, I think people are going to start realizing that who's the director of Parasite? What's his name?
The director of the movie that we're talking about? Is that the guy you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Let's all slowly look it up and just Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho is not that good of an director. He won an Oscar for Parasite, and everybody was like, this movie is amazing. And then Mickey 17 comes out. And it's not great. I think people are going to start waking up to him not being that great of a director.
I don't think that's true at all. Is this getting really bad reviews?
Yeah.
It's not, though, is it?
Oh, I thought it was. We can find out.
I mean, Not terrible.
Maybe I just wanted it to have bad reviews.
I don't know. And I don't think, I mean, he's got a long history.
Oh no, it's actually got really, really good reviews so far.
Yeah.
Critics at 77.
I don't think
Viewers at
that's going to
73?
be a thing. I think it literally is a thing.
People like this movie.
Like, you tried to call yourself a millennial like you're really young. But millennials and even the young millennials aren't that young anymore. And I think this is a stylistic choice thing that we're, to the extent that we're complaining about the movie. And I think I mentioned earlier, you're complaining more than I've come. The more I think about it, I'm like, I think my problems with it are that it is a modern movie and I'm an old man. And that, like, yeah, if you want to build emotional resonance, you don't make jokes about the guy dying. If you want to, everything has to be an everything movie. What is it? Well, it's an action, sci-fi, comedy, drama. And you're just like, okay, what the fuck is it? And that is hard for me because if it's a comedy, I want to laugh. When something serious happens in a comedy, it can try to be extra serious, and the juxtaposition of the two emotions you're having right next to each other can create bigger laughs the next time it's funny, but it would never turn into a dramatic movie. And if I need a serious sci-fi movie in which I care about the plight of the character, there can be a joke or two throughout it, but constant jokiness ruins it for me. But I think it's just it's 2025 and I'm looking for a 2005 style. And I might just be past it, that I am going to complain about this kind of style. And nobody else is going to care. They're going to be like, yeah, I laughed for a little while, and then later they gave you the point. And it's like, you laughed at the guy dying, which means you can't get the point. Because if the point is to give a shit, you can't keep laughing at the person that you're going to eventually give a shit about dying over and over again. Unless there's some major change that I don't think they really come about to. The change is the situation, not the character or how you're perceiving it.
Yeah. This tone, this Marvel. It's not even Marvel. Marvel is too.
It's not quite that jokey.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like Reddit, like it's like edgy without being edgy. It's kind of like Family Guy style of like, that just happened kind of thing, right? I don't know how to describe it any better than that, other than fucking Reddit.
I think Reddit's even better because of the kind of quick changeover, the kind of individual sentence. Everything's so fast that you can change it that many times that fast, and maybe that's the old man in me that I'm talking about, where it's like an attention span thing where you can change it because you kind of like forgot that you were laughing half an hour ago.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's almost like that was 30 minutes ago. We can have a different emotion now.
Yeah,
but
which seems, I guess, is fine. Like, that does, the way you just said it sounds kind of right, but
sure,
I want something to build throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it doesn't hit hard. It does. I mean, like we were talking about off mic, when I called you, and we both were like, oh, it's time to record. What are we going to talk about?
I don't remember the movie.
We just saw a movie. We saw that movie together. We saw a movie. It's just so unforgettable because of how fast it is, because it doesn't hit because of how fast it is. There's too many things happening all at once, and it never. I bet you probably some better director, some better writers could probably make this all land. in a way that's doesn't require me and you to argue for me to get its point. And the emotional journeys that we're seeing from just Mickey, from going from I'm okay with dying over and over again to like, no, I actually deserve to be alive, would actually land. Because like at the end of the movie, and at the end of the book as well, I was kind of like I was telling you, I don't care. What's the point? You are expendable. You signed up to be expendable. I don't care that you now believe that you're not expendable. This is your job. This is the job you signed up for. Blah, blah, blah. You know?
I'll tell you somebody else who doesn't seem to care. The woman that he's supposedly in love with. That it's, again, I don't think it's building. And so to some extent,
Yeah,
I'd love almost to have felt it less, but I was like, okay, I'm supposed to believe it because of his description. I met her. I immediately felt this way. She also treated me different. She felt this way. There's like this very romantic love going on. And then two of you are alive at once? This is kind of hot, is like her reaction, which is so emotionless, immature. And I'm just like,
it's immature. Oh, what a great word. Immature.
Is this the love connection that's like the human emotion that I'm connecting with in this movie?
Yeah.
Because she just like threw it away with a couple and she's like remains cool later. Like she's not evil because of this, or I don't even mean their intention. Like I felt like there was a naturalness in which she said that and then went back to being cool. And as much as I felt that was natural and she seemed like still a good character, not versus being a poorly made character, but versus being good versus evil, good and bad type thing.
Yeah.
I still felt like she was good. Like it wasn't like that line alone, made me write her off. But I was just like, that's just kind of like, if you're 19-year-old person you were dating for 3 months suddenly had a clone and you're like, oh, it's kind of sexy.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's not this kind of like, we're on a journey to the other side of the universe and we had a connection that was so great that we love each other.
Yeah.
That's not the reaction. I would expect, the love of my life to be like, why is there two of you? Not this is kind of I'm a little turned on,
and not only that, I was turned out when I found 18, and I've already fucked him.
That's
I fucked him immediately,
and that's almost part of it. Like she didn't know there were two at the time, right? She thinks that it's just the next Mickey and the old Mickey doesn't exist.
Maybe.
So again, hasn't done anything wrong with that. Then 17 shows up. So he should have the emotion
of getting cheated on.
In spite of the fact that she shouldn't have the guilt or blame for it.
Yeah.
Which is all very complex emotions that don't really
it doesn't
amount to anything.
Yeah.
And then she cheesily, jokily turns around and actually, it was kind of hot.
Right. And that the moment that she realized there was two of them, right? If we were supposed to get the point that like, this is a real different 100% brand new person. You're supposed to feel as much empathy for them as the next one, right? She would feel awful that she just fucked the other one, that she just fucked 18.
Or at least question how she's feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't have. It was okay because he should be, but now he's not. And then
this should be a complex emotional scene.
Yes.
But it's not. It's laughy, it's jokey, they're high, and she immaturely fucks both of them, and he does it too. He's participating in the act. And then on top of that, that going back to that immaturity thing is her like snap of rage when woman tries to take Mickey from her.
Yeah.
And that's very cringy to me because of how immature and out of nowhere her rage just blows up onto this other woman.
Yeah, which presumes she's got two of them now, so she can give up one.
So right, which again is another thing that's like confusing the point, because like she doesn't see them as two different people. Neither does the security chief, not the chick that is supposedly in love with him. So like how are we supposed to land with that emotion if none of you actually feel this way?
So Nasha, this girlfriend,
Nasha.
The reason I say she ends up being cool is that she kind of ends up pointing out that kind of contradiction in his buddy,
Yeah.
the friend.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay, she recognizes that.
Yeah.
So, and how somebody should be treated and how that guy is treating him too expendably, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, 20 minutes ago you said having clones is hot
Yeah.
in this movie. Like, I
Right.
can't.
And that's a downgrade of her character, because we've already seen her hang out with Mickey as he was getting drugged over and over again to find the antidote to the virus in the air.
Yeah, like the doting love actually there by the bedside of a dying person, like that.
Who she knows is going to just become alive again in a few minutes, to a degree. So she's supposedly so mature enough to have seen the humanity in an expendable already, and then we don't all of a sudden, and then we do again.
Back to it. Yeah.
In the next scene, as if it was like an arc that her character went, when it wasn't. It was a dip.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an arc. It dipped. It was a reversed arc.
Yeah. And
She ended up at the same place. She didn't grow. Nobody grew.
You reminded me that they were high in that moment is a mitigating factor for me, but it's still just the whole situation threw me off.
Them being high and fucking is immature to a degree, Not that like the act in and of itself is an immature act, but it clouds.
Good. If I can't get high and have sex anymore, I don't know what is this. What is this life for?
No, it them being high is like it's almost like a get out of free jail card for the writers, because if we had this conversation in front of one of the writers, they could always just, she was high, but she was high enough to realize that she is going to need to feed both of them.
There was no like a coherent high. It was like, you smoked a little joint with your friends and you can handle your high.
Yeah, I'm going up. I'm not getting dumb.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
You're not a person that you're not in training day and somebody just handed you whatever. What is it? PCP?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's a fun drug that you do on a regular basis. You're coherent. You're aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. So much so to have the forethought of thinking, because no one mentions it to her that we see, of Mickey's rations have been halved, and there's two of them. So they're on quarter rations, right? So that means there's an issue with them eating, which is the only time this is ever really brought up in the movie. In the book, them being hungry is a much larger deal.
So somebody was continuously hungry and you still kept thinking while reading it, well, it's your job. Why not get starved out while you're...
No, I wasn't thinking you deserve to starve or something. I just mean like you're starving. Jump on the grenade.
Well, I'm thinking you're expendable. Presume if he did jump on the grenade, I guess he gets his half for not doing it. Because I have a problem with cutting people's rations for as a disciplinary in general. That's probably not, we can probably come up with something better, especially in the future with what seems like quite a few resources going into this.
Yeah.
Not a lot of planning.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah. I think I think this is a mess of a movie, really. Ultimately, I think this movie is I don't think it proves its point very well, and needs a conversation to prove it. I probably would not watch it again.
I remember it so well that I don't know how it ends.
Nice. Well, it ends with the climax is that, the humans are holding the baby creeper. It's screaming for help, and there's this big mass of creepers outside with the big one, right? And the creepers demand an eye for an eye. Since one of the creepers have already died, one of you guys have to die. Which in the book, the creepers have been kind of a menace to them. The movie doesn't really talk about this, but the planet is very rich in metallic resources, and that's what they eat is like metal. So there's a big thing that just landed on the planet that's made out of metal. So they keep trying to eat the ship and stuff, and they eat through like bulkheads or airlocks and stuff, and then they just eat whatever's behind there, which sometimes is a person.
I like this. Yeah.
So if we're going by eye for an eye, which is not in the book, then in which case we need to kill like 3 or 4 of you before we're even. If anything, we should be mad at you because you've killed more humans than we've killed creepers. But
except, of course, they live there.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that are coming up with the eye for the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, they live here. Okay, but let's figure something out. Yeah, an eye for an eye. Yeah, but okay, well, like we're uneven then.
Yeah. Well, they didn't do eye for eye in the book, and in the movie, they didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, in the book, it's a completely different situation to begin with, but so the big mass of creepers are outside. Mickey and Mickey go outside to try to find the big one. A lot of crap happens, and then Mickey 18 blows himself up to kill the senator. Nice. And then we'll fast forward to springtime, and Nasha is on the council now, and is acting very immature again on the podium. What?
A consistent character development.
Yeah, we're back down. We're back down, and they blow up the printer, and that's
okay.
That's
yeah, so they put an end to that. I mean, yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's good. Get rid of it. I mean, I guess that's really where they kind of make their point. Like, you make something illegal in a place because it really is awful. You're like on Earth, they're not allowed to do it because everybody knows it's like evil. And then they just go, yeah, what if we did it kind of away from everybody where nobody would have to pay attention or look at it? Like, that won't actually change it, and it is just hiding it. I think the one person that I haven't mentioned that I feel like needs mention throughout this, or needs mention at some point before we get off, we talked about Mark Ruffalo, which I thought, he's doing a whole voice and a whole character thing that's a bit strong, but I thought he did a decent enough job keeping it as not cartoonish or anything. I can picture the wife, Toni Collette, that is like a person in that position's wife.
Oh yeah.
And she does it so perfect, of the kind of going back and forth between trying to make her own demand, but also being the wife of a powerful man or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
where, honey, you just got to get out there and blah, blah, blah. So she's a little bit manipulating behind the scenes, but she's got limits because she signed on to be the wife of somebody in power and not to have her own.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought she was absolutely brilliant playing that, to the point where he did not seem like so much of a real person, and she seemed like the most real person. Like I've seen her on the news.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think her and what's his name?
Mark
Mickey.
Ruffalo. Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. I think they do the best acting in this whole movie.
Yeah. I really don't. I mean, I don't really have a lot of complaints about the acting in general. But yeah, I thought she was a standout. Robert Pattinson, I think I said at the beginning of this, have very little history with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought he did a good job of making those two characters different without being where you can still see that they could be clones of each other. And speaking of doing a voice while keeping it just sub of like cartoonish and overdone, his voice for 17 being kind of a annoying, a little bit higher pitched, a little bit of a whiny,
nasally, whiny, little twerp.
and yes, and the voice went with like mannerisms very well.
He made himself small, very nicely.
Very he looked like he was intimidated at every moment.
Yeah.
And you felt like he was and it was the disappointing part of those deaths. I'm sorry to keep harping and going back, but he gave you a look of a man in real fear for his life, and then they gave like a slide whistle. And I was like, what the fuck just happened?
That's a great that's awesome. Yeah.
Like, got him.
Yeah. We
like,
got him.
What?
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, I was borderline impressed with his acting. I think that my reading of the book may have clouded my enjoyment of the movie at all. Not that I enjoyed I didn't quite enjoy this movie, but I definitely, I didn't enjoy the book at all. Like going back to that tone thing that I was telling you, that Reddit snimey tone, the book that's all it is, and I almost bounced right off of it. I had to like force myself to read it because I knew we were going to watch it. And I remember there's been a handful of books that I've started listening to or started reading, and I read this tone and then just next, like within sentences, and this was going to be one of them that I was going to bounce off that quickly.
This is cool because our prose sounds like the way you talk.
Yeah, it sounds like a narrator narrating a movie.
I want a book.
I bought a book.
You get depth out of a book because it doesn't do this.
It's and then if a book
This is why I don't read books. I don't want it to ruin a movie.
Sure. Sure. But what books can do really cool is like emulating something that it shouldn't emulate. Like currently I'm reading a book called Rant by the writer of Fight Club.
Okay.
And it's written like a documentary, like you're watching a made-for-TV documentary, and it's very weird, and it's very cool in that because it's weird, and he's a really good writer, so it's good.
While you're reading it, do you ever get the voice of like David Attenborough kind of like in your mind, just like some documentary narrator?
Real close.
Or who did Civil War? What's the PBS documentary guy?
Oh, I don't know that one.
And baseball.
Mm.
That's for his two famous. Ken Burns. You just
Ken
get like a
Burns.
Ken Burns voice going, and you're like, man, I feel like I'm watching a documentary.
Real close to that that voice, because especially those parts where like you really hear like a narrator is like the section would be called like, oh, these are excerpts from someone's journal or something, and it's like if it was on a documentary, it would just be the narrator reading that thing. You know what I mean? It's just that's when I hear the Ken Burns style voice.
Yeah,
and it's like that's pretty perfect.
Definitely more Ken Burns than David Attenborough, because he was really big on reading letters into his documentaries.
The only Ken Burns documentary I watched was Jazz.
Oh man, I think you should watch a little bit of Civil War, because it was, I think still to this day, it was like his most famous and popular, but it gets made fun of a lot in hindsight from some of the letter reading and just the same Civil War era music of a single fiddle playing behind a person reading an excerpt from a Civil War letter.
Yeah.
It's the first few times it's very that he's reading them, it's very serious. Then you start hearing some of these jokes and things, and then you watch some of it again, and it is borderline hard not to laugh.
All right. I'll check that one out. But anyway, any final words on Mickey 17?
Absolutely loved it. No, I think no, I think I've said enough or maybe too much. It was I think the more I sat with it, the more I liked what they were going for, but it just never got me into it. I just couldn't. I couldn't feel for the people, because as soon as I would start to think that I could, there was a joke.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it wasn't a joke where a character said a joke in the movie. You know, a character can be funny in a serious movie, and I think that's a great way to break up a serious movie.
There's a term for it, comic relief.
Yeah.
But you can still do comic relief without being a comic strip or goofy. You can still, be funny.
And it's not even, I feel like comic relief is all about the amount and the timing, but I just mean like if the character is a funny person saying a funny thing is one thing. If there's a slide whistle after a scene, it's another thing. And that's I'm out of the movie then.
Yeah.
I'm making fun of the situation. There's not even another character there making fun of the situation. Like, a person in a serious situation, in a dangerous situation, in a scary situation, the scariest situations of my life, I tend to be that guy that cracks jokes when nobody wants me to. Not that I've been in lots of scary, whatever. But I'm fine with a character doing it. It seems weird when it's outside of that and creating a situation that's funny, where the only if a character says a joke, one of the other characters either laughs or turns and says, not a good time for a joke. But if the director, if the way the scene is put together is making a joke for me, and none of the characters are even aware of it, I'm now removed from the movie.
Sure. Yeah, it creates too much space.
And it may be momentary, but if you create a few of those moments, I don't have a connection to the characters.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, good.
Signing off.
Yeah.
Since I did a weird back, what if I do some ending? We'll
yeah,
do some...
go for it. Let's hear it.
Oh, fuck. That was all I had.
That's
Signing
all you
off.
have. Signing off. What does Frasier say at the end of his radio episodes?
I only remember the beginning. He says, "I'm listening."
That's right. That's what he says at the beginning.
Good night and good luck.